Welcome to Paranormal or Reality. This week we explore Devil Grove, where the spirits are closer than you think. Then we are off to the Fallmore House, where guests never left. Lastly, we visit two haunted forests, where the spirits are active even in the broad daylight. Now before we start, make sure to like and subscribe for more haunted content. Let's begin. I was always intrigued by the concept of the supernatural, although I was extremely skeptical about it. So naturally, I wanted to see it for myself if anything would happen like you see in those shows on YouTube. I gathered a few friends, and we began exploring haunted places around Ireland. We visited, I believe, 7 or 8 different locations. Some weird things happened, but nothing conclusive. Until we went to Fillmore House, I took my cousin and his girlfriend. When we got there, it wasn't on the side of a road, like a normal building. It was miles down an old overgrown road that isn't used anymore. After driving for a while down this road, we came to the entrance, which was even more overgrown than the original road. Getting through it was tough, as the pathway to the place was mostly blocked by bushes and overgrown vines. Anyway, once we got there, the place didn't seem too bad, although the look of the old building was spooky. I didn't believe it was haunted. We walked through the old mansion and the other smaller buildings that surrounded it. We ended up out at the back end of the house, which was surrounded by forest. We began joking and having fun until we started hearing noises in the trees. It sounded like people walking. Then we heard whispering. It was getting closer, so we decided to go back to the car. I was extremely spooked at this point. As we got to the car, we tried an app that could talk to ghosts through this box thing. I can't remember the name. The whole time we genuinely had this feeling of being watched by something natural or supernatural was yet to be seen. Then my cousin, who had the car running with his reverse camera on, decided to video himself asking questions to the spirits. He said, "Show us a sign in the camera that you are here." Then suddenly a white figure walked behind the car. We all jump up and freak out. Once we calmed ourselves down, we reviewed the video and got out of the car to try to debunk it. Now I have to note that it was during summer, and it was a beautiful night. Dry and warm with no wind, the car had no exhaust pipes, so that was debunked. We literally couldn't find a reason why it happened. What made it even weirder was the feeling of being watched, then asking it to show itself, for it to instantly do something at that exact moment. The fact we were in the car for almost an hour, and nothing had happened beforehand. Anyway, we just left after that, and never went back again. Intrigued by the tales of eerie occurrences and restless spirits that pervaded the sinister landscape of Dow Hill, I embarked on a journey to Kurseong, West Bengal. The place had an eerie aura, with mist-draped trees that whispered unsettling secrets in a ghastly, incoherent language. Dow Hill's beauty was marred by an underlying dread that had earned it a reputation as one of the most haunted places in India. As I entered Dow Hill, the mist thickened into a suffocating shroud, and an invisible presence seemed to slither around me, chilling me to the bone. The Dow Hill Girls' School stood there, with its grand architecture shrouded in shadow, even in broad daylight. The legends spoke of a dark history, a history of suffering and tragedy that had woven a tapestry of despair into the very fabric of the school. Decades ago, the school had been a place of strict discipline and harsh punishment. The headmistress, a stern and merciless woman, ruled with an iron fist, inflicting physical and emotional torment upon the young girls under her care. The tales told of girls who had mysteriously disappeared, their anguished cries echoing through the halls at night. It was rumored that one particularly ill-fated girl had been locked in the basement as punishment for a minor transgression. She was left there for days, forgotten by the cruel headmistress. When they finally opened the door, they found her lifeless body, her eyes filled with a haunting terror that had frozen on her face. As I ventured closer to the school, the air grew colder, and the heavy silence was punctuated by the unmistakable sound of footsteps echoing through empty halls. My heart raced as I turned to find no one there. Yet the eerie footfalls persisted, as if the very walls held the tormented souls of the past, imprisoned for eternity. With trepidation, I continued deeper into the woods, where the legend of the headless boy haunted my thoughts. The rustling leaves and creaking branches took on a more sinister tone, their grotesque forms resembling skeletal fingers reaching out to grasp me. A chilling, maniacal laughter filled the air, echoing through the trees like the maddened cries of lost souls. As the sun began to fade, casting long, foreboding shadows, the forest grew darker. A thick, impenetrable fog descended, cloaking everything in an oppressive, soul-suffocating darkness. However, the sense of foreboding only intensified as I reached the Victoria Boys' School, where a teacher had tragically ended her life. An icy gust of wind swept through the decrepit building, extinguishing my feeble flashlight, and the faint sobbing seemed to emanate from all directions, as if the very walls wept with sorrow. It was as if the tormented spirits of the past were reaching out to me, their anguish palpable. Retreating swiftly, I couldn't escape the feeling that I had ventured into a nightmarish world where the boundaries between the living and the dead blurred beyond recognition. The legends of Dow Hill were not mere tales, but a chilling and horrifying reality I had experienced firsthand. As I hurriedly retraced my steps through the eerie forest, the fog thickened, swallowing every landmark. Each rustling leaf and sinister tree branch seemed to morph into grotesque, lurking figures, whispering malevolently. The forest's darkness deepened, becoming a suffocating presence, and I could feel unseen eyes watching my every move. A sense of overwhelming dread clawed at my chest, as if unseen hands were tightening around my throat. I could no longer discern the path I had taken. Panic welled up within me as I realized I was hopelessly lost. The echoes of the mournful sobbing from the Victoria Boys' School still reverberated in my ears, growing louder and more tormented. In the oppressive darkness, I stumbled upon an ancient, overgrown cemetery hidden deep within the forest. Crooked tombstones loomed like jagged teeth, and a blood-curdling scream pierced the night, echoing through the graveyard. I turned, heart pounding, but there was nothing to see, just an unsettling silence that followed the scream. Suddenly, from the shadows, a spectral figure emerged, a woman in a tattered white sari, her hollow eyes fixed upon me with a malevolent glare. She beckoned with a skeletal hand, and her voice, filled with despair and rage, whispered, "Join us." Terrified, I turned and ran blindly, crashing through underbrush and thorns, driven by sheer terror. My breath came in ragged gasps, and my heart threatened to burst from my chest as I desperately sought an escape from the relentless horror of Dow Hill. Hours later, I stumbled out of the forest, shaken to my core and forever haunted by the nightmarish experiences in Dow Hill. It was a place where the veil between the living and the dead was thin, a place where the tormented spirits of the past would forever yearn for release from their eternal suffering. In Dow Hill, the mysteries and the unexplained live on. This one is different since it happened in the Middle Ages. We had this myth that during a war, the fort of the local ruler had been taken and his bride was imprisoned. As the war went on, the local lord was started winning the war, so his bride was executed. Her body was bound to a boulder with chains, but one day, her body would go missing during a hot summer afternoon while being guarded. The chains were broken, but there was never a sound made. Ever since then, during the hot summer days, she will haunt the forest where the fort resided at. She's been haunting the village for over 1,000 years now. She appears right before sunset. The sound of rattling chains is the first sign of her presence. Birds and animals fleeing the area is the second sign. The third is seeing her, although we scare tourists by saying, "You won't survive seeing her." It's only partially true. Locals who've seen her usually survive. But if the farmers near the edge of the forest hear her, they usually go missing for some reason. We often find them towards the back of the forest, often a distance away from the paths, and it's always medically explained as a bad fall. I've encountered her twice. The first time I was alone. I was 13 years old jogging to let off some steam since I was having a bad day. I was about a quarter through the forest, where there's a small town I was hoping to visit. All of a sudden I heard chains and thought it was just some kid trying to scare tourists. Then I almost got run over by a deer, which was starting to make me worry. The third thing I saw was chains coming off the ground. They were rusted and brittle. They started to wrap around a tree. Then it went to another, then another, and by the third one I realized it was trying to get me. I ran as fast as I could to get out before it got back to the first tree. I got back home and tried to not think about it again. The other encounter was when I was 16 years old, and I was with my girlfriend. We decided to go find a quiet place in the forest to make out. As we were kissing, I heard the chains again. I immediately got up and focused. Then I saw 4 birds flying directly at us, at which point I just simply told her, "We should go. Local kids like to pretend to be a ghost, then beat up people with chains." We just walked away, and since then, I still go around the forest, but I just avoid any chance encounters with the ghost. My hometown of Santa Fe, New Mexico, is extremely haunted. Being the oldest capital city in the United States, lots of terrible things have happened on the ground that hundreds of thousands of tourists walk on each year. The ground is soaked with the blood of the natives who lived here when the Spanish conquered the land. This is the first of many stories of my hometown I'm going to post. The oldest cemetery in the city has graves that go back to before the 1800s. People who are said to haunt certain buildings are buried there. It just so happens that the cemetery's address is 1134. 1134 spells hell, if you flip it. Just a little fun fact. The front of the cemetery is gated, but the original iron gate doesn't run the perimeter. The back of the cemetery has no fence. Many here say that's because the graves go further back than the marked graves end at. Directly behind the cemetery is a power transformer that's so big you can hear the hum from the front of the cemetery. You see where I'm going with this? Spirits feed off on electricity in order to manifest. A lot of people who live here don't even know that behind the cemetery is a little forest in the middle of town, successfully hidden by building homes and a huge academy around it. This wooden area is called Devil's Grove. The trees, however, are odd. Many of them have holes in the middle that go farther down than where the trunk meets the ground. There's no fencing or anything. The wood is hidden in plain sight. The people who live in the homes surrounding it do not venture out into the forest. I've tried finding the article on Google but had no luck, so I have to go to the library to look through archives. However, in the late 80s, a boy who lived in the area went missing. His mother said he went to play in the river runoff that ran through the wood and behind the homes. They searched for days until they found him in the woods. He was head first up to his waist in one of the tree holes. He had passed away already. The weirdest thing is the holes aren't big enough to fit your body into, even if you were a small boy. The tree had dug into his stomach and back. There is no way he would have been able to get himself into the hole. It's said the tree looked like it had swallowed him. So fast forward to 1991, my dad was in his late teens and was a gang member. He had a terrible home life and turned to the streets. He and his friends decided to rob a gas station up the street from the cemetery. It went bad, and the cops were called. He ran through the cemetery and went to hide in the trees. Of course, he'd heard the stories of Devil's Grove, but he was a superstitious man his whole life. So, he didn't think anything of it as he laid down among the trees to hide from the cops. They came through and passed him, eventually making their way out back to the street. When it went silent about an hour later, he got up to use the bathroom. He walked a couple of feet so he wouldn't urinate by his bed for the night. As he finished, he noticed the tree had a hole in the middle of it. So, he decided to drop the first decent-sized rock down the hole. However, he never heard the rock hit the ground. He dropped another one and another, but he never heard anything hit the ground. Unnerved, he went back to his spot and laid back down. The later it got, the more the area came to life. He heard footsteps several times along with leaves cracking and twigs snapping. But there was no one around. The cops had flashlights and talked amongst themselves with their radios blaring static earlier in the night. So he knew the lone noises were not them. He stayed in the wood almost all night until he finally started to get scared. Looking up from the ground at the trees surrounding him, he felt unsafe. Almost 15 years later, after I was already a kid, we moved into the neighborhood behind the trees. The river runoff ran right outside my bedroom window, so we were very close to the trees. My parents never allow me to go into the tree area, or even near them. I eventually explored the trees in the cemetery as a teen. I saw figures. I've heard many unexplainable noises. The activity was definitely more intense near the transformer. Hopefully I can go search the archives to find more interesting information about the Devil's Groove. Thanks for tuning in. Watch another video if you dare.